Dakos and purslane. So unless you've traveled to Greece recently, these are two foods that you're probably not that familiar with, but they are absolutely delicious. So we are going to be working with them today. I'm Judy Matusky. I am a registered dietitian with Athens Nutrition, and I'm also a culinary nutritionist as well. Thanks for joining. I am still live in my kitchen, so that's great. We have not started the kitchen project yet, so I'm expecting to be here for the next couple of weeks. So thanks for joining today. As always, we are cooking with 5-ish ingredients or less, and we are keeping things light and healthy and absolutely delicious. So today we're making something called Dakos. And Dakos is something that I absolutely fell in love with when we had a chance to travel to Crete a few years ago, prior pandemic, when we were all traveling a little bit more. And it was absolutely my favorite salad. I never had anything like it. And it was really just very traditional to the island of Crete. Now you could find certainly Greek salads throughout Greece, but this was something that was a little unique, and what made it really unique was the use of something called barley rusks. And we're going to talk about that as we go through putting the salad together. Very basic ingredients. This is a salad that I pretty much only make in the summer when I can get really good garden tomatoes from our garden, or if you can get really good, tomatoes that are really fresh and in season. There's so few ingredients, and like all recipes, when they only have a few ingredients, you really want those ingredients to be the best quality possible. And by eating those types of things in season, that's when you're going to get that. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be using. We are starting with something called a barley rusk. So let's start there. Barley rusks are basically a double-baked bread. It's not the easiest to find in the States. However, if you go online and Google barley rusks, you can even get them off Amazon. But I happen to have a Euro market pretty close by, so I always run over there and I grab some. They are super crunchy, super thick. It's sort of similar to making like scones in a way, where you make the bread first and then it's sliced and then it's double baked, so they get super crispy and super hard. And we'll talk about how you sort of soften them a little bit. I love them. I always keep a bag. There's always a bag in my pantry. Sometimes I'll buy a bunch of them and I actually do freeze them, but they will last forever. So that's what's really great about them. And they serve as the base of the rusk. So why don't we go ahead, we'll get started a little bit. I'm gonna start putting a few together. And the one thing about these rusks, now if you can't find barley rusks, then you can certainly make this salad with a thicker piece of maybe, some type of a really good crusty whole grain bread that you've maybe double toasted so it's really crunchy. You could use thinner crackers like a Wasa or a Thin Crisp, like a Rye Crisp. But to me, what really makes the salad are these barley rusks. This is 100% whole grain barley. It's basically 3 ingredients: whole grain barley flour, salt, and yeast. That is it. So they are super crunchy. You can see they're harder than just even a regular crouton. So what you have to do is you have to take the rusks and you run them under a little bit of water, but very quickly, because we want them to maintain their crispness, but not so that they're, breaking teeth. So we need to get them a little bit softer. So I just run some water, and I'm just going to pass them under there and then sort of shake them off. Just pass it under, shake it off. I think I'm not going to do 3. And that's it. You just shake off the excess, and now they're ready to go. And the ingredients are simple. So we have the barley rusks. It's really good, your best extra virgin olive oil. This is when you really want to pull it out. Olive oil, garden fresh tomatoes. Right now I'm cheating. These are not from our garden because it's a little too early for the season, but I did find some really good cherry tomatoes at the market earlier this week. So I'm using those. Then this a really good feta cheese. Now on the island of Crete, they have a very specific cheese that they use. It's similar to feta, but not quite the same. But in Greece, feta is really what's going to be used on most salads. So I'm just using a regular feta. Then some Greek Kalamata olives, and then a little bit of oregano, and that's it. It's just simple, but absolutely fabulous. And because of the rusks is the base of this, it really is a hearty salad. So it's a meal-based salad. It's something you can really eat for lunch, you know, even for a lighter dinner. All right, so to get started, now what I do, you don't have to, but with the rusk, I just take a little pinch of salt, like a little kosher salt, and I'll just sprinkle it right over the rusk after I run a little water, run it through that running water. And then you just take your olive oil and you're just gonna drizzle, just, you know, a little olive oil over the rusk. And then you're taking your tomatoes, and sometimes these tomatoes might be shredded and that are placed on top of the rusks. I just dice these up in a smaller dice. So you really want to, you know, you really kind of want to pile it on as best you can because you want a lot of tomatoes. And what's great about this as well is that like right now I'm making 3 of these. I mean, I'll probably have 1 of them for lunch. But the nice thing is that you can make these ahead, and as the tomatoes sit on the rusks, the juice of the tomato will begin to kind of seep into that crusty bread, and that helps to soften it a little bit too. It'll still maintain that crunch, which is what you want, but it does soften it a little bit, so you get a little softer crunch and it's a little easier to eat. So I often will make these sort of ahead of time. You actually can get these rusks in smaller, a little more couple bite size, you know, maybe half to a quarter of the size of the ones I'm using. They're kind of nice if you want to do sort of a little appetizer. That would work really well, but it just depends on what you can find. All right, so we have the tomatoes on top of the rusk. So we started with the rusk, just ran them under a little bit of running water, shook off the water because you don't want to overhydrate them. Then I just put a little sprinkle of kosher salt, then some tomatoes, and now I'm just going to take some feta cheese and we're going to sprinkle that right on top. And this is as much, you know, really as much as you want. You don't need a ton. You know, feta cheese is a little salty. It's a strong cheese, and what makes it great when you're using stronger flavored cheeses, you end up not needing to use quite as much to get, you know, really great flavor. And then the Kalamata olives, you can chop them if you want. Traditionally, they're usually not. They're kind of set. They kind of sit right on top, and they're sort of whole. You know, you can, you know, maybe 3 or 4 olives on the top. And then for the finishing garnish, usually what's used is dried oregano, but because we have some fresh oregano, where's the oregano here? We have some fresh oregano in the garden right now. I grabbed that, so I'm just gonna, you know, tear up a few little pieces and sprinkle those on top. But if you don't have fresh, obviously garlic or dried oregano is really what's traditional. And because it's basil season right now, and basil, if you have basil growing in your garden, basil would be great on top of this as well. But it's traditionally usually made with oregano. And then just to finish it off, I would just do another little drizzle of oil over the top. And then that is it. And here they are, these absolutely gorgeous salads, traditional Cretan salad called Dakos, all right? So that's so easy. You saw how quickly that came together, and what a beautiful presentation. But again, all about you want to get the best quality and in-season tomatoes for this particular salad. All right, so now I really just want to talk to you a little bit about the purslane. And if you had a chance to see the garden video, I posted that before today. I wanted to talk about purslane because when we were in Crete, what was really interesting is when you travel, even in Greece, you really don't get lettuce in salads. You know, it's just so hot there and it's just harder to grow lettuce. So what we found was that, particularly in Crete, all of our salads, if we ordered a Greek salad, it always came with a wild green called purslane. And if you check out the garden video, you'll see how it grows. It really grows like a weed. My husband just got a couple of seeds of this several years ago and put them in the garden, and they kind of take off. So it is sort of like mint in a way. They just will keep coming back every year. We don't reseed anything. They come back. And what's really nice about the purslane is that it has a really nice sort of lemony crunch to it, And it reminds me a little bit of like the leaves, like almost like a succulent. They're not that thick, but they are a little on the thicker side because they do retain some water. So it depends on how hydrated, how much water there is when they're growing. But this is, so the base of like a Greek type salad when we were in Crete, it came with the purslane, and then, you know, the feta cheese and the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the peppers, that was on top. There was never any lettuce. And that's the first time I'd ever heard of purslane. And when I came back and looked it up, what I found was really interesting is purslane is incredibly high in the plant version of omega-3 fatty acids, which is really unusual because you don't find that in a lot of plant-based foods. And the studies that were done, you know, years ago, and as we continue to look at the Mediterranean diet and the health benefits of the diet, we know that omega-3 fatty acids are a really important part of that diet. And what they found with some of the research is that not only were the, you know, humans eating purslane quite a bit in Crete, but also the goats and the sheep and things that the animals that were grazing were also eating the purslane, and they were also getting additional omega-3 fatty acids, so that the meat had a higher percentage of omega-3 fatty acids than domesticated animals would. So it's kind of cool. And what we do is I just will add this to sandwiches. I usually toss it in with other lettuce. Sometimes if I'm mixing a green salad, I would just take, you know, maybe some red wine vinegar or a little bit of lemon juice and just a little sprinkle of that with a little drizzle of olive oil and, you know, a pinch of some salt. And that's it. That's all you really need. And now you can certainly add tomatoes to this, and you can add cucumbers. You can sort of turn this into a Greek salad. But sometimes I'll just serve this straight up like this. It's very crunchy. It's a little lemony. You might be able to find it in markets. We actually did see it last year in one of the farmers markets. But if you can get your hands on some purslane seeds, and you have a garden, or even if you just have a pot in your back, you know, patio with some really good soil in it, throw some of that. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. I don't think purslane needs good soil. I think it grows in really bad soil. So any kind of, wherever you have it, it will begin to grow, and it'll probably come back year after year. So give it a shot. Remember that cooking is one of the best things you can do for your health. And I always believe that we should try to be cooking sort of the way we want to feel, right? So we want to be cooking the foods that we love and enjoy, but also are certainly health promoting and help us to feel really good as well. All right, enjoy the rest of this day. I will probably see you again next week, and we'll be doing some more cooking fast, eating light with 5-ish ingredients. Take care.